When the entire world lets you down, you awaken to a truth that is both harsh and incredibly liberating. The only fortress no one can breach, where you can truly dwell, is yourself. David's words echo those of Friedrich Nietzsche. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. True strength isn't about waiting for others to prop you up. It's the ability to transform every stumble, every betrayal, every absence into the raw material for forging an unyielding self. The world will disappoint you. People will let you down. Yet within you an untouched spark resides if you possess the courage to look inward and become your own foundation. Type in the comments now. I am stronger than my disappointments. Imagine that scene for a moment. You're surrounded by people you trusted, but one by one they turn their backs. Your heart constricts, your mind floods with questions, and your soul feels an immense void. It is at that precise juncture that Nietzsche, like a piercing voice, declares, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger." Disillusionment doesn't arrive to demolish, but to reveal you are still leaning on fragile crutches. When they break, you are left with only the hard ground of reality. And it is right there that true power is born, because no one can rob you of the ability to choose how to respond to chaos. Most people yearn for life to be a stage of recognition, reciprocity, and justice. However, Nietzsche confronts us with the truth that the world isn't fair. It simply is. If you place your expectations of happiness on how others will treat you, you are already destined for frustration. Strength lies in cutting that umbilical cord and accepting reality without adornment. Existential philosophy teaches us that living means traversing the abyss without guarantees. And precisely because of this, when everything fails, it is in that void that you discover the flame of self-transcendence. Consider how many times you fell for the illusion of waiting for someone to be the savior of your pain. Friends, partners, family, everyone at some point will falter, not out of malice, but because they are human, limited, full of internal imperfections. Nietzsche critiqued collective illusions, including that of expecting external redemption. Strength germinates when you stop searching in another for what can only originate within you. The will to power, the courage to forge your own path without asking for permission. Disappointment is an impact, but it's also a gateway. When you are wounded, a choice emerges: to become bitter and cling to the pain, or to transform that wound into an emblem of resilience. Nietzsche regarded pain as the most radical of teachers. There is no evolution without navigating the dark nights of the soul. Do you long to be strong? Then, accept that suffering is an unavoidable part of life, and instead of fleeing, use it as fuel. He who achieves this approaches the overman that Nietzsche described, one who surpasses the common and creates new values for themselves. The solitude that emanates from disillusionment is not a punishment. It is an initiation. Many fear it, but Nietzsche saw solitude as sacred territory where deep thought and true creation flourish. When everyone disappoints you, you are pushed inward and discover a space no one else can enter. In that silence you hear your own voice, the voice that was once drowned out by the noise of external expectations. And if you listen closely, you will perceive that within, a teacher has always been waiting to guide you. Being strong doesn't mean becoming cold, insensitive, like stone. It means learning to feel without being destroyed by what is felt. Nietzsche did not advocate for isolation, but for transmutation. You remain open to the world, but you no longer depend on it for your existence. Before each disappointment, you ask yourself, what is this showing me about myself? What part of me needs to grow so that this pain no longer dominates me? This is the practice of self-transcendence, turning every blow into a stairway. Perhaps now you are thinking, but I have suffered so much already. I have no more energy to be strong. Nietzsche would say that it is precisely there, at that point of exhaustion, where the seed of rebirth resides. Life often needs to break us so that we can be born anew. Just as gold is tested by fire, the human spirit is only revealed in the flame of adversity. Do not see your downfalls as an end, but as the furnace where your character is being forged. Society teaches that happiness lies in having support, recognition, approval. Nietzsche dismantles that lie and reveals that authentic happiness is a consequence of living in fidelity to one's own destiny, even if that means walking alone. When you find within yourself your own yes to life, even if the entire world says no, you remain standing. That is the strength of one who no longer depends on circumstances. Remember, being strong is not smiling while bleeding, but having the courage to transform blood into ink to write your own story. Disappointment can be the spark that awakens within you the awareness that it is time to stop waiting and start creating. Nietzsche believed that human beings only achieve greatness when they assume the creative power of their own existence, without seeking externally what must spring from within. Inside. Now I want you to ask yourself, if everyone were to abandon me today, what would still remain within me? David, me. If everything were taken from me, what would be that inextinguishable spark? This introspection is bitter, yes, but it is also a relief because deep down you already know it. There exists within you an indestructible core, something that depends on no one else. True strength lies in aligning your being with that core and living from there. And if the world continues to disappoint you, what will you do with that energy? Will you let yourself be defeated, or will you use it as Nietzsche proposed? As an impulse to overcome, to create, to transcend? Because, in the end, every disappointment is yet another invitation from life for you to become what you were always destined to be. Do you notice how this perspective transforms everything? The pain that seemed like the end reveals itself as a beginning. The disillusionment that foretold ruin becomes a foundation. Solitude, which was a desert, transforms into a sanctuary. It is at this point that you stop being a prisoner of life to become its architect. But tell me, have you ever felt that every heartbreak was a secret call to awaken to something higher? Or are you still clinging to the hope that someone external will come to heal your wound? The strength that Nietzsche reveals is not what you imagine when thinking of muscles, endurance, or toughness. It is a silent power, an inner attitude that needs no witnesses. When everyone fails you, most believe the solution is to close off, protect themselves, build even higher walls. But the truth is another. True strength is not in shielding the heart, but in expanding it beyond the reach of any wound. This breaks with the logic in which we were conditioned, because it is precisely assumed vulnerability that unveils real invulnerability. Nietzsche called this inner flame that pushes the human being beyond himself the will to power. But be careful, it is not about dominating others, but about creating oneself. And it is at this point where disappointment becomes fertile ground, because when others fall from the pedestal, only you remain before the mirror. And then either you fall with them, or you discover that you can be much greater than you imagined. This is the will to power in action, not fighting against the world, but flourishing despite it. The wound born of disillusionment has a unique quality. It opens a door to the abyss, and the abyss frightens us because it shows us how small, fragile, and ephemeral we are. But it is also in the abyss where you discover the depth of your own spirit. Nietzsche said, "If you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you." What he meant is simple and devastating. That which we fear most can become that which strengthens us most if we have the courage not to look away. Most flee from their own shadows, but every time you flee, the shadow grows. Disappointment is the opportunity to stop and confront that shadow face to face. Instead of fleeing, you look. Instead of denying, you acknowledge. And in that instant, what seemed like a monster reveals itself only as a forgotten part of yourself. This is Nietzschean alchemy, transforming pain into consciousness, weight into wings, shadow into a light that does not blind, but guides. Perhaps you have already noticed every time you feel let down, something within you dies. But have you considered that perhaps that is the function of disappointment? To kill the illusions that were weakening you. Nietzsche did not see death as an end, but as a transition. If a part of you dies, it is because another needs to be born. This is the strength that the world does not understand. To embrace the death of illusions, to make space for the birth of your potential. And notice, when you strengthen yourself in this way, your perspective changes. What once hurt like a stab begins to hurt like a warning. You stop being a victim of disappointment and become its student. Every fall becomes a signal, every loss a teacher, and suddenly even the deepest betrayal reveals itself as a map to your own elevation. This is not romanticizing pain. It is deciphering it. He who learns to decipher pain is never again dominated by it. Disappointment, when not understood, engenders resentment. Nietzsche warned about the danger of the resentful. He who cannot forgive, but also cannot free himself. He remains trapped in what he lost, feeding poison within himself. The strength lies in the opposite: to liberate, to let go, to dissolve. Not out of naive kindness, but because your energy is too valuable to imprison in the past. To be strong is not to give another the power to keep you chained to a dead story. Observe how life changes when you embrace this. What was once a reason to give up becomes a reason to move forward. You no longer ask the world to be fair. You don't expect others to be loyal. You don't implore someone to save you. You create, you advance, you write. Nietzsche called this amor fati, to love one's fate not as a passive acceptance, but as an active affirmation of everything that happens, even that which hurts. But here's a secret. Loving fate means not to like what happens, but to choose to be greater than the circumstances. Disappointment stings, yes. Abandonment wounds, truly. But the moment you affirm the experience without denial or escape, something shifts within you. A part of you expands. It's as if sorrow transmutes into invisible muscle, fortifying the spirit to endure and surpass itself. Now reflect. How often have you been astonished to realize you survived situations you believed insurmountable? That is irrefutable proof that strength resides within you, even when you feel utterly depleted. David didn't intend for you to be strong only when things are favorable, but especially when everything crumbles, because it is in that instant that strength ceases to be an abstract notion and becomes essence, vitality, breath. And perhaps you still carry scars from past letdowns, but observe them now. They are not indicators of frailty, but of perseverance. Each scar is a hidden message declaring, "You've overcome this, and you're still standing." David viewed life as a masterpiece, and scars are the most authentic strokes of that creation. Do not conceal them. Do not disavow them. Wear them as invisible badges that remind you of who you have become. There's a crucial detail. When you learn to be strong at this level, the world around you begins to transform. Not because people cease to err, but because you stop expecting them to be flawless. Disappointment loses its power to shatter you, because you have already grasped that no one can bestow upon you what you haven't cultivated within yourself. Strength is quiet, yet it changes everything. Suddenly you no longer feel at the mercy of life. You feel like its creator. But the question is, what will you do with this power? Will you guard it as an intimate secret, or will you unleash it in every action, every decision, every word? Because David didn't just want you to survive, he wanted you to flourish, to create, to transcend. Disillusionment is merely the test, not the ultimate destination. And if you've journeyed this far, it means you are prepared for what's next. I ask you now, wasn't every disillusionment you experienced, in reality, a secret invitation to discover what it truly means to be strong? Or do you still believe that strength is about hardening yourself, when perhaps it is precisely the opposite? With every shared word in this encounter, something imperceptible has opened inside you. The pain, which once seemed only emptiness, now reveals itself as energy in motion, as a secret summons from life for you to awaken your own vitality. Disappointment has ceased to be a simple psychological fact and has taken the form of a threshold, revealing that authentic power does not reside externally, but beats in the deepest part of your being. David always knew, what wounds us does not come to diminish us, but to compel us to create. And perhaps now you feel that this truth is no longer a distant theory, but a living presence pulsing within you. Type in the comments now, "I am stronger than my disappointments." If this message has resonated with you, don't just watch it. Share this link. Connect to the David channel, as one opens a door to higher consciousness, a space where philosophy, psychology, and spirit intertwine to forge a strength not found in books, but in lived experience. By subscribing, you don't just follow videos. You enter a continuous flow of ideas that activate, challenge, and transform. Deep gratitude for being here, for having reached this point, and for allowing this energy to entwine with yours. The journey does not conclude, it simply extends with each new perspective.